I have a question.
Yes, please.
It's just coming to me, this instinctive reaction when someone attacks us. I mean, not just, someone's annoying us, but when there's an actual sort of verbal attack or whatever, the instinctual reaction to close, to protect yourself. And, when this happens so many times, and then it's just like a lot of fear to open, which I know this is what we're doing, but I'm just talking in specific.
Alicia, what I would suggest is you should start studying the martial arts. Learn karate, kung fu, something like that. And if anyone messes with you, they'll stop messing with you.
Huh.
I really mean this. I mean, there is a point in life where you have to be able to defend yourself, where people are so erratically crazy and do things that you have to be able to defend yourself physically. Now, this is not anti-spiritual, and you don't have to kill the person, but you can make sure that they'll never touch you again by just knowing, martial arts, knowing things like that, how to do things like that. And that'll help you to overcome your fear. So, I'm not suggesting that we go around beating people up, but I'm suggesting that there are times when things can get very hairy and very difficult and people get very crazy. And we have to know how to stay centered, balanced. People have to know how to defend themselves. And this is not anti-spiritual. This is creating a shield around yourself where people are not going to mess with you. Now, as you grow, look, I once knew a very great martial arts instructor. I was walking on the street with him one day. And I said to him, I said, look, the greatest martial artists will never get into a fight. The chi coming out of them is so strong that when people get near them, all of that anger will just dissolve because the energy, the balance, the strength in them is so strong. And he looked at me and he said, you're right. The greatest of them never get into fights. When you go to see Nityananda, when you were, 3-5 miles away from where his, center was, all of a sudden, all your tension would begin to dissolve. And when you came to him, it was with a garland of flowers and an open heart. And Baba, here are my questions about a spiritual life. So in the process of building that kind of chemistry, a lot of crazy things happen. And if you have that kind of fear in yourself, go learn karate. Go learn kung fu. Go learn aikido, one of these martial arts, jiu-jitsu. And as you get stronger and stronger spiritually, you'll have less of a need for that. But in the meantime, it'll help you to overcome your fear. No, I know spiritual.
Wow, that wasn't the answer I was expecting. Thank you. It's really helpful.
Excuse me?
Thank you. That's really helpful. It wasn't the answer I was expecting.
Well, that's my forte, not giving answers people expect. I mean, once you build a real, that kind of connection in yourself, people feel it. It breaks their tension down. They can't attack you. I mean, it's just a whole changing relationship you have with the world. But there is between point A and point B. And as I said, if you have that kind of fear in yourself, go take karate classes. I mean it. It's not only Alicia, anyone. You have that kind of fear in yourself.
Thank you. That's exciting.
Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? I remember once I was walking down the street in New York. We had just gotten back from the Big Indian Meditation Center. And one of the people in the car left his camera in the glove compartment in the car. And Rudy asked me to go get it. And I said, okay. I went down to the garage. I opened the car and got the camera. Walking back, must have been 8 or 10 guys, maybe in their early 20s. They jumped me and they grabbed the camera out of my hand, and ran. And I mean, they threatened to knife me and this and that. I wasn't frightened or anything, but when I got back to the center, Rudy looked at me and said, what happened? I told him what happened. And I'll never forget, he sat me down and he did this deep exercise where he set up these 2 guardian divinities that follow me wherever I go. Protective divinities. And I've been living with these, I used to kid around calling them Heckle and Jekyll. Living with these 2 energies. It's been now, 50 years, 45 years. So there's all kinds of ways of protecting yourself, and you never know what's going to happen in life. People are nuts. There are wars going on all over the world. There are crazy people. I'm reading an article in the news this morning about a civil war in the United States. We have this crazy ex-president. It's just unbelievable, the tensions that are in life. And the best protection, of course, is a connection with spirit. And that eliminates fear and gives you a grounding and a balance inside and an energy that truly breaks down other people's negativity. We live in this world, a lot of people think when you do meditation, you don't live in this world. But the point is that we do live in this world and we have to deal with a lot of the stuff that this world presents us. We have to learn to work out our karma. We have to learn how to connect with spirit. The way to work out your karma is to connect with spirit. Build a chakra system that's strong enough to enable you to be in the world and to be free in the world at exactly the same time.
Stuart?
Yes.
I'm thinking about women who experience at home the violence from their husbands.
I don't understand what you're saying.
When you talk about her questions about when we are scared somebody to attack us, I'm had violence at home, and I'm thinking now you could talk to women who are experience violence at home from their husbands. It's going very, very often around the world.
Well, yes, you should talk to, Daniela and Rafi's daughter, who's built a whole organization in Israel about men abusing their wives, protecting women. They have a whole organization. They're big. She spoke in front of the United Nations. Rafi and Daniela are in this class. And their daughter, Lily, who I know, I was at her wedding, Lily. She has this big organization, and the whole purpose is protecting women from being, abused, hurt, killed, by their husbands. And it's a very wonderful organization recognized by the United Nations. And, if you want, I can give you their email address and you can get in touch with them, Very important subject today because so many women, are abused that way. It's just a horrible thing, you know. I mean, I
And
saw.
in Kosovo,
I
yes, in Kosovo. Okay.
You know, I saw when I was look. I started an ashram meditation center in Kathmandu, Nepal. You know, and there's a woman who studies with me, still studies with me, a very wonderful human being named Chris, and she ran the meditation center. Now I'll tell you about abuse. And
Yes.
you know, she called me up one day and said, Stuart, I love it here. It's the most exotic place I've ever been, but I don't know what I'm going to do with my time. So I said, Chris, look, you're in one of the poorest countries in the world. Something will come. At any rate, 2 days later, she calls me up. She went to a meeting at the United Nations in Kathmandu. And this is a true story. And they were talking about the fact that 10,000 girls between the age of about 10 and 16 years old are trafficked into sexual slavery, you know, from Nepal to India. Now you talk about abuse. I never, ever was confronted with anything more horrible than that. And they wound up in a place called Falkland Road, which I don't know any of you know Mumbai, but Falkland Road is like hell in Mumbai. So I told her, Chris, there's our work. We'll set up a foundation and we'll work with doctors and CEOs to find children that are targets for this and take them into our house and, you know, put them through school, give them training, you know, give them a life, frankly. And it was a true story. So we started this thing called the Bahini Foundation.
Oh.
And we started rescuing children, and also women who escaped from brothels in India used to come and live in the house. And I heard stories that were beyond the pale, beyond the pale. I never heard anything like it in my life. And I mean, from these people, what they went through, people tortured and raped, young children, 10 years old, raped and tortured, you know, and transformed into prostitutes. You talk about abuse. This was beyond the pale. And we ran this organization for 4 years. And then Chris, who was there all the time, she started getting sick with emphysema because Kathmandu is a pollution nightmare, you know? I mean, it's right in the valley and it's terrible pollution there. So I said, Chris, let's give the organization to a doctor that we work with. And you come back to New York, you stay with me for 3-4 months and we'll heal you up. So we did that. We gave it to an organization called REST, run by a doctor named Aruna, and who was a good friend of ours who we used to work with in the field to find these children. And anyway, Chris came back. She stayed with me for 3-4 months and she got healed up from her problem. And anyway, I wrote a book called Little Sisters, which I don't talk about a lot because it's a very powerful book about that problem. It's a novel. And it's about that problem in Nepal and India of children being transformed into prostitutes, being taught. I mean, at any rate, you know, this woman, this doctor from Nepal called up and told Chris and I that because she started the Bahini Foundation, it saved the lives of 10,000 children in Nepal.
Wow.
This is a true story. And I was like, I started to cry. Now it's being run under an organization called REST, R-H-E-S-T. And it, you know, children that would be living on Falkland Road. I don't know how many of you know Falkland Road, but man, it is one hellhole in the world. I mean, the abuse in life is beyond all human, you know, comprehension. And my God, I was confronted with, I think, the worst of it I've ever seen in what we had to do with that organization. So I understand this. And if you have that problem, go see people that can help you with it. Go to the police, go to organizations that deal with that. You know, talk to Rafi, Daniela's daughter. What?
Stuart, I had that problem. And Astrid, my second son, He's helped me to come out after 30 years. But now it's a big problem in the Kosovo too. They are killing many women, and
Yeah.
I will do something for them.
You know, look, Flora, that's why I explained to you what I've been through. I've seen this problem head on. Not in, 30-year-old women. I'm talking 10-year-old children. Horrible. Start an organization.
Yes.
Find people that want to be involved in that you can do some good in the world. It's a wonderful thing to be able to do that kind of good. I mean that.
Okay.
You have my support.
Thank you.
I mean it. And I'm not saying this out of having read an article in the newspaper. I've seen this. I've seen the worst of it.
I feel that it's the right thing to do.
It is. Start an organization. Get these women together. Women are very powerful. I mean, they're very powerful women. And when they organize and they can do some good in the world, look out, world, I think they're much more powerful than men, frankly. I mean, they're Mother Earth. Every woman is a goddess.
Thank you, sir.
Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? I mean, this book I wrote, Little Sisters, is not going to give you a spiritual life. But if you really want to see what goes on in that world, I mean, I suggest it's a book you can read in one night. And it's a very powerful book that talks about this horrible problem it is, And it's written as a love story also, in a novel, so you can get through it, Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? But Flora, just to finish, you have 100% of my support if you want to do something like that. I mean that.
But how could you help me, Stuart?
Oh, let's see what you can put together, and we'll see what's going to happen. I don't know.
Okay.
I can help you spiritually. I don't know if I can help you financially, but I can help you spiritually. Support with energy and that. But I'm telling you, that subject gets me pissed off.
Yeah.
Not a lot that gets me pissed off, but that subject is one of the most horrible things in the world. And it shouldn't. Does anyone else have a question?
I have a question.
Yes.
So in those situations, the people that are suffering, their karma is to suffer in that horrific way?
I don't know. Look, everybody, I don't care who you are. If you're born on the planet Earth, you're going to suffer one way or another. Now, the question is, do people do anything about themselves? You understand? Do they work inside themselves to truly change their inner lives, to build a strength that can transform the suffering into love, into a spirit? That's the problem. You can't escape suffering in this world. And to think you can is very naive, but you can transform it. You can use it to grow inside yourself and as a tremendous tool to get to God. I mean, the Buddha said suffering is the fastest path to God. And to me, that's extremely profound. So instead of complaining about it and getting crippled by, people have to work inside themselves to build a system that's strong enough to transform it into a spiritual life. And honestly, I think it's one of the things we are born on the earth to learn, how to transform suffering into a spiritual life, because nobody escapes it. I mean, I once wrote a little aphorism: suffering is the perfect democracy. It touches everybody. Now, meditation, inner work, it allows us to transform this problem into an extraordinary connection with God and higher energy. And once that transformation takes place, a human being who goes through it lives with an enormous amount of compassion for the sufferings of other human beings. So it's not the suffering. I mean, you can't escape that. It's what people do to build an inner life that can transform the suffering into a spiritual life, into love, into compassion. I mean, I don't know if, look, I've been through a lot of stuff in my, I mean, I wrote a book along with Elizabeth, Isabel, who's in the class here. It's a combination, it was a combination of 160 letters that we wrote to each other while she was in an institution in the United States. And the book is called From Darkness to Light. And it's truly a book about the transformation of suffering, turning an impossible situation into a successful life, to a wonderful life, a life full of enormous potential. I mean, if you want to read about I have all these books that I've written that come directly out of my life, but you can get that on Amazon, and it's 160 letters that we wrote to each other. And it's called From Darkness to Light. And it's another story of the transformation of a really person living in a dark world into the light. I mean, I don't go into my life too much with all of you, but my God, I have stories to tell and things I've been through that are really extraordinary, what I've seen in the transformation of humanity and how people can change. Does anyone else have a question? And none of this stuff that I've done in my life came because I just decided to do it, It came because something in me reached a point where I had to do some service in the world. And then as soon as that happened, all these situations manifested. And I had the strength to do it. It didn't, intimidate me or threaten me, I remember going to a warden at a prison in Fort Worth, Texas, telling him what I want. And he said, well, we've never done anything like that here. But he said, but I really like you and I like your energy. So let's give it a try. I mean, the first meeting with the guy, this is what he told me. It started a program that went on for like 5-6 years there in this prison. And, it was unbelievable what took place. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? And most of you are a lot younger than I am. You can do these amazing things manifest when you build an inner life of opportunities to use your consciousness in the world. Does anyone else have a question? Okay, if there are no more questions, there'll be a class on Tuesday. God bless you all. Thank you for being here today. Just frankly, I think I needed this class as much as any one of you. I mean, it's wonderful. God bless you all.
God bless you too. Thank you.
I hope to see you.